I'm Scarlett Fu. This is Bloomberg Quick Take. Two of President Trump's children, Ivanka Trump and Don Jr., have been subpoenaed by New York's Attorney General. This is part of the state's probe into Trump's business dealings. New York Attorney General Letitia James is investigating whether former President Trump's business manipulated the value of key real estate assets for tax and insurance purposes. Trump sued James last month, saying that she's investigating him for political purposes. So let's get more now from Bloomberg News reporter Eric Larson. Eric, New York State has issued several subpoenas against the Trump Organization, President Trump, and now his kids. I can't keep track of how many, but I'm sure you have. Where are we at right now?
Well, in this particular case, which is a civil investigation, this would make almost 10. We first learned about it in August 2020 when Attorney General James had to go to court to try to enforce the subpoenas because the Trump Organization was ignoring them. And so those are the first ones we heard about. And then just last month, we got word that Donald Trump himself had received one of these subpoenas. Finally, I think that was long expected, but it did show that the investigation was really moving along. And now, of course, we hear that Ivanka Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have also received subpoenas. And both them and their father are expected to file motions to quash them as soon as today. So we're looking at another court fight. And I should mention that Eric Trump was already previously subpoenaed in that first round. And he already did sit for a deposition after going to court to try to block that. So one of the Trump kids already has been deposed in this case.
That's interesting because you mentioned that President Trump has tried to put up legal roadblocks to get deposed, and we can expect that Ivanka Trump and Donald Trump Jr.'s lawyers will do the same. But if Eric Trump was actually deposed, is that what we expect to happen, therefore, with Ivanka and Don Jr.?
You know, I have to say, just from following this case for a while and seeing the parties in court fighting over these earlier rounds of subpoenas, that it does seem like the Trumps might have an uphill battle here to try to avoid these depositions and demands for documents, because the AG has a very broad function in the states. They did go to court previously and say why they opened the investigation. You know, Trump has said that it's a witch hunt, that sort of thing. But AG James did go to court and present, an explanation for why this investigation was happening. Of course, Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer and fixer for a long time, went to Congress and testified that he was aware of these financial shenanigans, alleged shenanigans that the Trump Organization was using. And that's why this investigation was open. So it's not like the Attorney General just sort of, went out there and tried to start an investigation for the fun of it. She had a reason to, according to her.
Got it. Letitia James, as you mentioned, has a civil investigation into the Trump Organization. The Manhattan District Attorney has a criminal investigation into President Trump's company. Explain the difference between the two.
Well, the two, obviously the criminal case has much more, consequences involved for the people who are charged. The Trump Organization was charged, as was the longtime CFO, Alan Weisselberg. It remains to be seen whether any additional figures from the Trump Organization will be charged in that case. But we do know that they were very closely related. The now former DA Cyrus Vance Jr. and Letitia James, the Attorney General, worked closely on this investigation. Because of his criminal power, the DA's criminal authorities, he was able to start this the criminal case once they said that they had enough evidence to prove that crimes had been committed. So we have a new DA now, but we're not sure exactly if anyone else will be charged. There's been talk about whether or not Trump himself could be charged. But for right now, with the Attorney General, she's focused on this civil investigation. And that could eventually lead to a lawsuit being filed by the Attorney General against the company or the individuals involved. That would be a civil case.
Okay, so do the developments in this civil case impinge at all on the criminal case or vice versa, or they're just running parallel tracks?
They're running parallel tracks. The civil investigation could, is what happened last time was that the AG found some evidence of criminal wrongdoing, and she turned that over to the DA, and that's what helped lead to the criminal case. She could end up finding more evidence of potential crimes, and she could turn those over and helping to expand the criminal case, or she could just use that information to bring her own civil case against Trump. And of course, that's exactly what Donald Trump is trying to stop right now. As you mentioned, he has sued Letitia James in federal court to try to halt her investigation, saying that it's all part of a political witch hunt, that she started the investigation for political purposes as her star was rising in New York. A lot of people have said that's a long shot case, but we'll see.
Remind us again more about what Michael Cohen provided to Congress in his testimony, because you had said that this initial investigation didn't come from out of nowhere. It was based on the testimony that Michael Cohen did offer. Is he playing any role in the pending investigations right now, whether it's at the New York State Attorney General's office or the Manhattan DA's office, or his job is done in that he provided the information and he's moved on?
Well, it's always hard to know exactly what's happening behind the scenes, but my understanding is that he did provide assistance to the DA, that he was interviewed on more than one occasion. I know we've done some reporting on that, but as far as what he might be doing in the future, I'm not sure. It certainly is possible that he could get called in as they uncover more information, as they subpoena these thousands of documents that they're still looking for. So we'll see. But when he was in Congress, one of the things that he mentioned was, for example, that the Trump organization would intentionally get an appraisal for a property and either make it too high or too low, depending on what would help them out financially. So, for example, when they got a property easement was donated to the state in Westchester County, a large property that the Trumps had. It got a very high valuation, which resulted in a really nice tax benefit for the Trump organization. So if that was inflated, then the tax benefit was inflated. And that's one of the things they're really digging into.
Okay, I see. You mentioned that Eric Trump, the youngest son, was deposed. Do we know if anything came out of that? Do we know what that resulted in?
Unfortunately, we don't. His testimony for now is very much a secret that only the Attorney General's office knows. So eventually, if a civil suit is filed, I think a lot of that testimony is the type of thing that you would see spelled out in the complaint if they were able to find any inconsistencies in what was said under oath and what the documents show. But for right now, we're really not sure.
Right. It feels like we're in the early innings of this legal battle then. Eric, thank you so much, even though it first came about in August 2020. Bloomberg News legal reporter Eric Larson joining us.